Consciousness, like everything else in nature, tends to go through certain cyclical patterns. We have ebb and flow in the expansion of consciousness on the planet. We have periods of immense growth, followed by moments of destruction. We have moments of chaos, followed by moments of order and peace. The reason why consciousness can never sit still is because it's quite literally the ether of creation. Consciousness is the sea of awareness that allows for all experiences in reality. Consciousness wants to observe itself, going through moments of expansion and contraction, like the inhale followed by the exhale of the universal mind, seeking the deeper experience of its own presence. Right now, as a human race, we're going through another cathartic moment in which the veil is thinning and we're able to observe that we are both on the precipice of immense order and disorder playing out in order to create a change in the collective consciousness. We can observe trends throughout the entirety of human history in which civilization goes through a dawn of new awareness, of building, construction, the development of empires, the Renaissance, different moments in which human consciousness gradually expanded to include new information which seems to be coming from an etheric place of higher knowing. And at the same time, there are many barbaric moments, moments of immense war, confusion, disorder, the plague, and all kinds of moments in which a wipeout must occur in order to quite literally hit the reset button in the collective consciousness. Now, on this continuum of the consciousness spectrum, we can see that both the ebbs and the flows are necessary in order to create order on a mass scale. Hence, this paradox of existence is such that everything ultimately brings consciousness into a deeper experience of itself. Everything is equilibrious in the end of the day, because all ebb and flow leads to this continuity of balance and divine order. However, where are we on this consciousness spectrum? As individuals right now, we are feeling either oppressed by what is, or we can feel the liberation to a new possibility. We can feel that we are either constricted and confined by what's happening on a larger scale, or we can feel that we are actually disruptive agents of change as vehicles of consciousness, which can be enacting that change through our personal will. So either we feel that we are small fragments of the collective mind, trapped in whatever order or disorder is playing out on a collective scale, or we can feel that we are tiny microcosms of the all, actually inspiring change by choosing to shift the state of consciousness that we operate in. And this interestingly brings us to the point of why are we actually here? As a human being, you are experiencing consciousness, and whatever state of consciousness you are going through is in some way connected to the rest of the collective. If you're going through a low state of consciousness, you most likely have been impacted by something of a lesser frequency happening on a collective level. If, for example, you turn on the news and you feel that the media is making you experience a certain lower frequency state of being, that is because you are allowing your field to be penetrated by that lower frequency intention. This could be part of a larger egregore, or quite literally a psychic entity that is existing to trap your consciousness in the illusion of victimization. In which case you can start to experience a state in which you have no power over your own consciousness, which is the ultimate trap. When an external agent can make you feel that you have no power over how you feel, and your condition becomes rendered useless, since you are simply drawn into this larger hive mind, which traps you in a feeling of inferiority. We can easily give our power away if we choose to see that what's happening on a larger scale is completely separate from us, and that we have no role or no voice in what's happening in the collective consciousness, because we're simply limited by what is. However, this is probably the biggest trap of all, because if you feel constricted to such a degree that you give up your sovereignty and your identity because of the notion that somebody is bigger than you and has the ability to trap your consciousness, you're simply using your power to render yourself useless. You are giving away your power in such a way that you don't even recognize that you had it to begin with. And what's often playing out, which leads to the decline in human consciousness, is just that. When we get so sucked into the illusion that duality is the only paradigm of existence, we find ourselves experiencing nothing but the duality of our own egoic mind. And this often leads to the feeling that life is a battleground, that we're here to survive, we're here to fight against what is, which ends up creating this state of utter resistance to everything that we find ourselves disagreeing with. If you find yourself constantly battling conditions in your life or feeling like the matrix in and of itself is a trap, then what you're experiencing is the battle of living in your lower chakra system. This is where you are compelled by the desire to survive in your root chakra center, where you're constantly identifying with what you dislike, and you're constantly feeling like you must fight against what is in order to preserve your sense of autonomy. However, there is a whole other world that you can be experiencing if you start to transmute these energies. And right now, we're all confronted with this essential choice. Are we going to choose to fight through the prism of our unconsciousness and feel like we must be surviving because our lower chakra system is dominating our experience of being? Or are we going to choose to lift those energies and bring ourselves into a deeper seat of purpose by choosing to move into our hearts, by choosing to climb into our crown chakra, which will lift the veil on all this unconsciousness and show us an entirely different mode of reality? And this is what is most important to understand, that during a time of cathartic change, chaos, disorder, and destruction, you can be choosing to plummet into the lowest point of your consciousness, in which you are the ultimate victim, in which you want to wage war, and you experience this inner battle and a constant state of turmoil because you cannot be accepting of what is. However, you can also choose to transcend all of that. And in that moment of extreme catharsis, you can be choosing to transcend your egoic nature and to move into the higher position of knowing that this time is the time that your soul chose to transcend altogether. A moment of self-transcendence can look a little bit like this. When you're hitting rock bottom and your ego has no more solutions for what to do or how to survive in a certain moment, and you choose to experiment with a state other than resistance, you can choose to simply receive the input that your soul wants to share with you in that moment. Most of the sacred and hidden knowledge that is accessible to the human being can be accessed when you are in a state of complete and utter surrender. When you're in a state of no longer fighting against what is and simply becoming the conduit of consciousness. This technically is our default state of being. If all of us were to stop doubting, stop relying on only our mind's control to rule our entire reality, then we would start to become antennas of higher consciousness. And think of it, during those moments of catharsis, like war, global conflicts, diseases, what often happens is those dark moments are followed by the moment of enlightenment, when a lot of people around the world start having bright ideas, when the arts, the sciences, and new developments start being fostered by this air of inventiveness. Because what happens is that darkness always needs to be balanced out by the rise of the alternate condition. We must allow a part of our unconsciousness to fade away by choosing to shed light on the other aspect of our being. We can start to see that within us is quite literally the archetype of the devil. Every person has a part of them which can be existent in a program of self-sabotage, hatred, resistance, and vehement opposition to all that is, and that is the part that we'll never choose to create and to surrender to higher possibilities. If we choose to lay to rest this aspect of duality, we can choose to engage that aspect of our being, which is simply a fractal of Source. And within that still spot, when we choose to simply receive and to open ourselves up to divine inspiration, we can choose to channel the insight of our higher selves. And this is a very interesting thing to examine. I want you to think of your higher self as an aspect of yourself that is in touch with the higher field of intelligence, the quantum field, if you will. Another way to look at this is as the Dirac Sea. It's a sea of information which is etheric in nature. It is outside of the confines of time and space. In that higher dimensional plane of experience, all possibilities are known. All solutions can be tapped into. Higher knowledge, wisdom, and awareness of what it takes to heal, to be expanded, to be fully liberated to your soul's truth and to the purpose of experience can be identified. In order for you to tap into this higher plane of knowledge, you must allow yourself to depart from the attachment of your lower identity. You must choose to see that you do not need to be bound by this devilish program keeping you stuck in a state of fear, resistance, survival, or any kind of opposition. When you are choosing to oppose your own ability to tap into Source, you become the devil in your own experience. You start embodying a resistant program so deep that you can't even tap into the source of higher consciousness within yourself. If you choose to repress this ability to tap into the divine, what you're doing is simply existing in this matrix of human subordination. You're choosing to become as one with all of the opposition on the planet which has been created in order to trap your consciousness. You're choosing to manipulate yourself into a reality of inferiority simply because you perceive yourself to be a victim of this higher model that is leading to the conditioning on the planet. If instead you can see that you are not necessarily a victim of all of the programming and conditioning traps and biases in the collective consciousness, but rather that you have the ability to choose. That right now, if you choose to embody a higher model of consciousness, your soul's genuine template of being, which is authentic, truthful, loving, expressive, and fully free to experience the reality of your higher conscious self, that you can choose to bridge that gap of discontinuity and to quite literally become your soul in physical form. What this means is you are choosing to transmute this energy of survival located in your lowest chakra region and moving into your solar plexus, which is the bridge to your soul's expression. Within your solar plexus can be trapped a lot of resistance towards your sense of self. And many people who are spiritually confused or who have this feeling of discomfort with their current identity, which they feel is false in nature, need to tap into the power in their solar plexus, which is really the connection to the universal one, in order to experience their higher dimensional potentiality. What that can allow you to do is to depart from a state of inferiority and fear. If you feel any hesitation around becoming your true self and really owning your power, then you need to activate this sense of potentiality within your solar plexus region. This quite literally feels like you are turning the butterflies in your stomach in a moment of fear into a feeling of deeply rooted knowing. This is where your sense of power arises from. If you choose to move into your solar plexus and recognize that the thread to the universal consciousness is accessible in your own deepest part of your knowing, which is your gut feeling. It's the feeling from which all deeply rooted power arises from. The amalgamation of that knowing and confidence in yourself will allow you to become the channel of all solutions you're seeking in your reality. As soon as you choose to relinquish control over your ego, you will find that knowing starts to stream through various faculties of your awareness, not just your brain, but also your heart. Also, your body's intelligence will become more attuned to the higher intelligence program which wants to be aiding you in the long run. What you will start to experience is that a part of you already knows exactly what you need. This is your higher self. This is the aspect of your consciousness which is already tapped into the future potentiality which will bring you the desired state of being. This is the part of you that knows operating in a new earth consciousness is possible, because if you choose to connect your lower self to the higher dimensional self, you are going to be experiencing that higher dimension of experience down here in the 3D matrix. If you choose to become this bridge within yourself, you're choosing to experience planet Earth entirely differently. You are choosing not to operate as a person who is trying to resist and rebel against reality, but rather work with the programs and experience in order to define a more positive, high vibrational experience for yourself. You may start to see yourself as a conduit of new solutions. Now imagine if every single person were to tap into their dormant ability to channel higher conscious information, to creatively maneuver this energetic flow which wants to come through the being at all times. We would start to experience an expansion of consciousness in the collective. People would start to create more art, music, passionate works, streaming from the soul, because they're simply choosing to acknowledge that that ability to be soulful is always possible when you choose to tap into your inner self. As soon as you start to engage your ability to truly be, you start to awaken this ability to be as one with Source, to experience the creative, beautiful, and fluid qualities of the Creator in your own being, in your own vessel of consciousness, which can support the role of consciousness as a whole by you choosing to flow in your creative element. If you choose to be as one with your own sense of being, you choose to create that point of peace, and from that stillness, all possibility is born. If you choose to bring this balance to your own being, you stop even responding to the conditions of warfare, resistance, and polarity on the planet with such vehement opposition. You start to thrive in any condition in reality, because you realize it isn't the conditions that need to change for you to feel more wholesome within yourself. It's your inner reality which ends up defining your entire experience of being, which is what you are meant to be doing here and for the collective. For you to realize that you are a creative palette of consciousness with many colors and expressions of your own variability will allow you to understand exactly what it takes to be an instrument of the divine, to see that you have chosen to come here to depart from the lesser conscious programs, and to realize that polarity and duality is necessary, but being trapped by those conditions is not. You do not even need to be experiencing the devilish aspect of reality as the trap, as the antagonist. For all of us here are ready to be confronting these darker dualistic programs in order to understand what it is that our soul really needs to go through to ascend and to contact the higher field of intelligence. I believe that what we can be contacting as the truth of our higher self is already the potentiality and the sacred knowledge that we have learned through experience, and that higher dimensional plane is really housing the future version of ourselves. That if we choose to traverse all of these challenges and to expand our consciousness by quite literally amping up the frame rate of our experience, or our ability to hold awareness becomes more dense with knowing due to our surrendering to the field, we end up creating the condition that we later will be experiencing. That our higher self is the transcendent version of our human avatar, who is going through this experience in order to activate that higher place of knowing. If you understand that there is already a future version of yourself that is alive and well, thriving in a condition of non-duality, unconditional love, forgiveness, peace, acceptance, and absolute truth, you will start to realize that the absolute is always experienced in your inner world. That there is always a touch point to the one within your own soul. That if you choose to venture into that unhinged aspect of your consciousness, which cannot be resisted, cannot be feared, cannot be oppressed by any factor other than yourself, you'll start to realize that you have always been free to contact this truth, and that the deepest knowing and sacred knowledge that is feared by all the powers that be is that you have the power to unleash your own consciousness. That when you choose to awaken, nothing can stop you. No fear can annihilate your soul's desire to fully express itself unless you choose to subordinate your own awareness. Choose to step into your power so that you can activate all the knowledge that your higher self wants to be sharing with you. By choosing to activate your energetic potential, you are becoming this change that you wish to see in the world, and nothing can stop you if you choose to make it so.